presenter today is Veronica Cardosa. Born in Austin, Texas in 1978, Veronica was adopted by a Mexican couple from Mexico City, where she was educated in English, German, and the arts. One of her photographic projects is in the permanent collection in the Museum of Mexican Art in Chicago. There's also a large one currently in the photography show at the Ajijic Cultural Center on the plaza. Veronica, her husband, and children moved to Ajijic in 2007, where she founded a Waldorf School that satisfies her desire for a well-rounded education for her children, focusing not only on the intellect, but on artistic activities, gardening, and circle games that provide a more balanced and satisfying experience. She is enthusiastic about the opportunity to speak today at Open Circle in order to share what she has learned about childhood education. Veronica Cardosa.
Hello, I'm Veronica. I'm thrilled to be here and very grateful for your open ears and for you actually being present here today, because it's a very big festival in town. And to be here to listen to me, to what I have to say on Waldorf education. Who knows something on Waldorf education? Right? Waldorf education was designed by an Austrian philosopher named Rudolf Steiner. He was born in 1861. At the beginning of the 20th century, he founded a spiritual movement called anthroposophy. This movement was based on his studies that tried to find a synthesis between mysticism and science. He called this study spiritual science. His work permeated into different arts like architecture, movement arts, where he invented a new art form called arrhythmy. It's a beautiful dance that the ones who understand this dance can look at it and read a secret message with the different movements. Steiner established Waldorf education, biodynamic agriculture, that is like the mother of the organic scene, and anthroposophical medicine. He based his philosophy on Goethe's worldview that thinking is an organ of perception, just as the ears or the eyes. We perceive colors and forms through the eyes, we perceive sounds through our ears, and we perceive ideas through our thinking. One of his main goals was to prove to all of us that human knowledge has no limits. In 1919, he was asked by a friend of his who owned the Waldorf cigarette company in Stuttgart to design a program of education for the children of his factory workers. This is beautiful, how I think corporations back then had a deep responsibility to their workers and their families. Now, today, evolution of humanity is proceeding through our minds, our hearts, and our will. Being human is the cutting edge of what we and Earth shall become. In a culture flooded with trivialities, this is a very big thing to take in. Wow, my own process, my true colors, my choices affect everything that surrounds me and everyone. What a concept. And it is very important then, when we become conscious of this idea, how we pursue our personal development. coming to mind when we think of this personal development? Love, consciousness, knowledge. And what kind of knowledge? Spiritual, mentally, intellectually, physical, all of the above. Every human being has an individual soul. And this soul has three abilities: to think, to feel, and to will. In contemporary education, it seems that they've left two of these abilities out. We are focused on our thinking, and we think that our cognitive power is the only ability in us that needs to be educated. Formal education has lost the art of fostering moral sensibility. We see cuts in artistic, music, and movement programs in schools, and instead we are focused on teaching children to excel in this race of technological supremacy. I believe that this tears out the heart of education because it sets loose the wildness in us. And in previous ages, this wildness was miled down or focused by the arts. In a couple of months ago in the New York Times, I read an article that was called Silicon Valley Does Not Compute. It was an article that asked the main technological chiefs of Google, Yahoo, eBay, where do they send their children to school? And some said they send their children to a Waldorf school. But this article focused on its own curiosity to say, why do these super techie leaders send their children to schools where there are no computers? No? Confucius sought to lay the cornerstones of the foundation of education by asserting the needs of schools. And these needs were to enhance cultural life, to teach the necessity to engage with others in a wholehearted sincerity, to conduct all affairs based on a moral conviction, and for me, the most important of all, to discern the truth. This can be considered the heart of education. And we cannot blame schools alone for a moral deficit in our society, because this issue lies in every one of us. We as adults are responsible for our continued education and our connection with our society. But what do we want to teach our young in a world moving so fast? What do we want to train them for when we don't even know what trade is going to be important in 5 years from now? One thing that we know that we will all be next year is human beings. No? Rudolf Steiner teaches us that we are a threefold human being. We are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. Waldorf education teaches and prepares teachers to perceive a child, an individual, in this manner. We teach understanding the development of soul in relationship to spirit and body. And we respect this process by not accelerating it. Schools right now are so caught up in curriculum, and curriculum intends more content instead of process. Children are starting school before they're 4 years of age, and they're expected to read and write ASAP. Parents are in a hurry for their children to advance in academic lessons. And they all dream of an Einstein in their child. While Einstein said that if we want our children to be smart, we should read them fairy tales. We are so caught up in materialism that we are forgetting the essence of childhood, the essence of singing, of playing, of laughing, and most of all, of fantasy and imagination. Through art, music, and movements, we in a Waldorf school teach abstract concepts like math, grammar, and science. This way, our thinking becomes a will activity. And through the development of will, our soul and our spirit awakens. I have seen parents worry as well that Waldorf education is not academic enough. They see a lot of crayons and a lot of colors and a lot of dancing and a lot of play. There's research conducted by Dr. Sebastian Stuttgart that says that children that learn things in a later stage, like 6 or 7, have caught up by the age of 11 with children that are introduced to literacy, for example, when they're younger, like 4. There is even evidence that delaying the starting age of school helps children's grasping of things, of abstract ideas. What does then Waldorf education offer? So if you want to close your eyes, you will for a minute. I want you to imagine a comfortable place with a beautiful carpet, chairs and tables made of wood carved by hand, live materials like wool and beeswax, a lighted candle, and the smell of fresh bread. Welcome all to our Waldorf classroom. We greet the children at the door every day and we hold their hands to say hello. We then go to a morning round and we try to have an inspiring morning verse. After that, we do gardening, and gardening is the stomach of a Waldorf school. It's our everyday play, our everyday hands-on activity. And gardening is a good example for training the will, because the child can see a seed grow and blossom. It becomes part of a wholesome process. Some think that alternative education is a playground driven by wild energy. And in Waldorf schools, we work with rhythm of the day. And for this to be, for this to happen, there must be a leader. And that leader is the teacher. This teacher is followed by the children because the teacher understands the natural flow of the rhythm of the child. You know? A deep understanding of child's development is very important to design this rhythm of the day. A second grader, for instance, is very energetic, it's very physical. They want to run, they want to climb trees, they want to scream. So instead of putting them inside a classroom, what we do is that we teach them math through clapping their hands, stomping their feet, jumping a rope, and playing round games. This makes their physical energy relax. We do reading comprehension in the outdoors, we connect them with nature, and we work reading comprehension through theater and drama. On the other hand, the fourth grader, 9 or going into 10, is ready to sit down. This is an amazing process to look at. They sit down and they're ready to have silent times and do research and write and read, and they're very interested in what the teacher has to teach them because they want to eat the world of knowledge in a whole bite, you know? In a Waldorf school, we want to teach live concepts rather than dead concepts. We want to teach ideas that grow like a seed. Ideas that can blossom into new understanding. For example, calculating the feeding of the calves or the chickens. These are live mathematics. These are big responsibilities when the animals' tummies are hungry. No? With the arts, we lift the children's spirits. And when we lift our spirits, we experience them and we acknowledge them. This is why painting, singing, and farming give such a wholesome comprehension of life to a child. Well, this all comes together in a Waldorf school, and we work hard learning the lessons that are important for life, like math and science. We uplift the child's spirit, and we focus on their connection with nature. There's another article that I just read that urged teachers and parents to think of the idea of children falling down from trees. What's happening? Why are children falling from trees? No? We want to teach the lessons, we want to connect with nature, because all of this is a constant flux in our everyday life as an adult, since we're children. Waldorf education needs as well to permeate to the household. And this is where the parents take on education. We encourage parents to teach children to mop, to clean, wash dishes, to set the table, to do laundry, and all of these activities support our thinking, our willing, and our feeling. And the most important thing of all, it teaches us self-sufficiency. That is, for me, the biggest gift we can give a child. In advanced ages as well, we can teach them about basic household administration and make them an active part of the home. When they're watching TV all day long and we as mothers are cleaning the house, we are not giving them quality time. If we are doing laundry with them, we can look at them in the eye and they can share with us real things of life. This is a beauty, principally because they're not hooked to the television all day long. And TV, it's not that we are against healthy entertainment, but our children's life and our own have been transformed by electric technology. I mean, 10 years ago, TV was the issue. How much hours do we let our children watch TV? Now screens are everywhere. How many here have screens in their pockets right now. No? So, first, what does the screen do? The screen renders things in 2 dimensions so that you can only see what the screen presents you. And you don't have to think for yourself. Entertainment is designed to keep us hooked. It switches from one image to another constantly. And the word amusement means anti-muse. It is going against our own inspirations. The space in our lives to develop fine aesthetic senses through reading, drawing, and making things has been squeezed out. Waldorf education connects us with live materials like wool and wood and beeswax and paper. In a world in fast forward, we find what it seems an old-fashioned education system, a way to connect to each other and to nature, to be open, to create with our hands, to discover original ideas, to be awake. Rudolf Steiner explains in his book, The Study of Man, that our first lesson in life is given to us by nature. And nature chooses to teach, educate our will. Through breastfeeding, our will is awakened. The child's natural instinct is stimulated by smell and touch and warmth, and it feds and it feeds. So if we give the right stimulation to a child instead of trying to fill it with dead concepts like an empty vessel, then I think there's an opportunity for real growth. I want to share with you all notebooks that we make in our classroom, so you can see physically how the work is done. Mathematics are understood through colors and forms. Okay. Yes, I can do that. The way we handle the workbooks is we don't give children workbooks. We make them make their own illustrations, and this way they can really have a wholesome understanding of whatever we are teaching them. At the end of the year, they have their workbooks for each of their subjects, but the illustrations, the writing, and the composition of these notebooks are made by themselves. So they become treasures for them to take into the next year.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Are you open for questions?
Yes, of course I'm open for questions.
I have It sounds like the school requires itself to be located on or near farms. So there's room for the gardening and tending to the animals and things like that. The animals are a part of the family, the school family.
Yes, well that would be the best scenario. But then we have Waldorf schools in New York,
Yes.
and their gardening systems are fantastic because instead of being horizontal, they're vertical. So they find many ways to do farming in the cities. Yeah.
Now, my next question is about the arts. You didn't really touch a lot on it, maybe building the foundation of creativity and openness and soulfulness.
Mm-hmm.
But you need, I believe I've seen performances here by opera singers and pianists and people who had hands-on cultivation of various art forms. Could you talk a little about that in the school here?
Well, the art is intertwined with our lessons. If we're teaching math, we are drawing frequencies and different forms that makes us comprehend mathematics. In our science lessons, we draw and illustrate the animal that we are studying. For example, the lion, and the lion form, and the lion's color, and the lion's texture. As well, before even going to the anatomy of a lion, we look for poetry that can really take us into the animal. So it is really all together.
Yes, but what I'm speaking of is, and this is probably counter to the Steiner approach, but the discipline of mastering an art is through repetition and, so like piano. Do you have the pianists come to the school and people interested in piano have regular lessons?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
They have an everyday schedule,
Uh-huh.
and we handle the lessons in blocks of 3 weeks. So we focus on a lesson for 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks, we leave this lesson to rest, and we go into a second lesson for 3 weeks, even with the piano and the watercolor and the form drawing.
Wait.
Fourth grade.
We need to work out a system where we're passing the mic around. So if you now have a question for Veronica, if you raise your hand, Jim will bring you a mic and hold it close to your mouth so we can hear.
Okay, well, just asking why 3 weeks? How do you build that?
That was built by Steiner. And 3 weeks is a lesson, a complete lesson, like before you get tired of the subject. And the whole point of going into the subject completely and then resting the subject is that you want the lesson to come into the unconscious as well, not to dwell into the sleep. When we learn something during the day and then we go to sleep, it comes into us, and the next day we have another level of understanding. It is related to that cycle of waking and sleeping. Yeah.
Do the children have exams after these, or at the end of the year, or anything like that?
No, we don't have exams, and that's why Waldorf teachers are encouraged to start in kindergarten with the group and continue with the group until 6th grade. That's the perfect scenario, because then you have the teacher understanding what the child's really going through during the different ages.
Do the kids go to secondary school as well, or is it just primary school
Yes,
level?
secondary.
Hold it a little closer.
Do the kids go to secondary school as well, or is it just primary school?
It's
And
kindergarten.
kindergarten too?
Kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, and high school. And there's even a college, Steiner College in San Francisco, California.
And what if, I have to ask,
Yes.
what have the results been? I mean, have the kids who graduated from these schools done well in life?
There's a book of Waldorf graduates where they tell their experience on their afterlife, after Waldorf life. And there's a story that I can remember right now that says that one man was going out with a lady, and one day he was running to meet her, and his pants tear. So he arrived to her house, and she wasn't ready, and so he said, well, my pants tear, and I need a needle and thread. And she said, well, but you have to send that to a shop to be fixed. And he said, no, I can do this by myself. So that is, of all the stories that I read in this book, the connection. They all are very independent and self-sufficient people, yes.
Okay, Rosemary?
Veronica, do you find that there's a perfect number of children to have in a class?
Well, the maximum group that I've had, the biggest group that I've had is 9 children. So, talking to other teachers, they feel that when the classroom is larger, it's easier than when it's smaller, because when you have a small group, it becomes very intense and very personal. That's very nice, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It depends on where you live. In a small town, a big city, it's going to be reflected in your classroom.
Where is your school in this area?
My school is in Villanueva, in the Carretera, and it's more of a homeschool program. And it's 402. Anyone wants to visit?
Okay, here. Why do children fall out of trees?
Well, there's this worry because they are not being stimulated physically. There's no balance exercises when they're small, talking about kindergarten. And there's one very important thing of falling down from trees, that it's overprotected mothers and overprotected society. Children fall to the ground, and I've seen it in kindergartens that I've gone to visit, and they fall down to the ground, and they're down on the floor, and they're looking back to see when are they going to be picked up. So this getting back to a straight position is a very, I even would say, academic lesson for a 4-year, for new babies, all ages. Exactly. All ages.
Okay, we have one here.
I was going to ask where the school is located at, but you've already covered that. But I wanted to ask you, is the Waldorf institution a non-profit worldwide organization or a private organization, or?
It's a private organization, but as well in certain states in the U.S. they are charter schools. So they are supported by government. And the important thing of what Steiner intended to as well is that any child and family that wants to attend a Waldorf school, the Waldorf school has to do whatever it can to make this child have a Waldorf education. That's their social commitment.
I understood you to say that there are no examinations, so I wonder how you know how the child is progressing, but even more important, as they get ready for college, what does the college look back at to ascertain the fitness of the student to even enter college?
Well, I think that I was just focusing on primary ages, but it's not that they don't learn the same things as an American curriculum or British curriculum. We just teach it conscious that there is other areas in us that have to be educated. So when they get ready to go to college, they're fit to do an admission test.
What he's asking is, how do the colleges know that this person has the degree of skill to enter their college?
Well, there's the OSNA organization, that is the Waldorf Association of America, that gives this certification that's valid to universities.
But if they don't have examinations, how do they issue that and know that the child is ready?
Well, the teacher knows their process, and they know that they've achieved it, and then they're given their certification.
But may I interject one? Most states have a system for measuring at various junctures along the way that a child is ready to go to the next level. Are you exempt from state regulations? Is there some way your schools
So I think that those policies are being, they're trying to find a middle place where us, we don't grade, and they need certain numbers for us to give them, and we can work around that, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Working around.
I have a question, but I also wanted to respond to that other question because my children were educated in a town in western Massachusetts where there were hundreds of homeschooled children, including Waldorf educated children, and all of those children went to college.
Yeah.
And colleges know how to ask the questions, and that's their job, is to determine, is this child ready for this college, is that a match? So I think, at least in many parts of the U.S., I think that those criteria are already established.
Yeah,
And because you're in a primary, it's not as relevant yet to your school.
Exactly.
But my question, well, more of a muse than a question, but when I think about global warming, for example, and I wonder, this has accelerated so much in the last 30 years, very, very recently. I wonder how much global warming would be a problem if more education was Waldorf focused and there was a mindfulness about the connection between the planet and the humility that you seem to be projecting about where children belong in the spectrum of life.
Well, I do think that if we teach our children to connect with nature, and is that sufficient? We maybe wouldn't be facing those problems. Yeah.
Veronica, how old are the children who prepare the books that you are passing now?
They're 8 going into 9, and one of them are 9 going into 10.
No, I mean, that's the age.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Here.
I just wanted to add something to that question about college. I had the privilege of knowing a family whose children went through Waldorf schools, and their SAT scores were off the charts. And they really did well and got into great colleges.
I've heard the name Waldorf, but I've never learned about it. I think it's really unfortunate that kids are born with a job mentality. Go to school, work, get your degree, and then go get another job. Well, I've been working with an organization for the last 6 months or so that is based upon the fact that you can become an expert on anything outside of going to college. I'm not putting down the institution of universities or anything, but I was going to ask you about, there's so many other ways to develop yourself outside of going to a university or high school. As human beings are meant to, travel long distances and self-sufficiency and without having the screen in your hand, developing our own brains. But I was going to ask you about what kind of things the graduates do outside of college. I have my associate's degree, but I don't plan on going back to school ever. I know that there are other ways to develop myself and to help others to do that, but what else do they do besides going to universities? Do they join any type of service groups, or do they become teachers at the Waldorf schools themselves?
As well, they can, but I think that hopefully we've taught them to believe that their knowledge has no limits, and knowledge is found everywhere. You know, contemplating a flower, reading a book, experiencing any kind of job that you do every day and excel at it. No?
I think we need to limit it to only 2 more questions because we have to be out of here today by 11:30.
I would like to just add that the United States is not the only country that we're talking about here. Waldorf education is worldwide, 60 countries, and so every school has to adopt to the laws about education in all of those different countries. And I wanted to speak also to Margaret's question about piano playing, for example. In kindergarten, the schools provide little bamboo harps, not harps, what we call it? A flute, yes. And the children open the very first hole in that flute in kindergarten. And then they go on year after year developing their ability to play the flute.
And make your own instruments.
That's
Yes.
right.
Thank you.
We have one back here.
Do you have a school in Honolulu, Hawaii?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes.
And do they take like 15-year-olds, or do you have to start from ground up?
No, I think they'll be open to take a 15-year-old.
Yes, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If we could, I had told Luzma that she could ask the question, so this has to be the last one, please.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's fine.
Just a very fast question. As you are in Mexico, I'd like to know how many Mexican children you have now, and if you, like the woman said, do you have any connection with the Mexican education now, or how do you do that?
Well, the Mexican Secretary of Public Education works around us, works with us. And there are exams at the end of 6th grade to go into secondary, and they're made in their offices. And if the child passes the exam of 6th grade, then they can go and pass to secondary grade. And a lot of Waldorf schools in Mexico are supported by INEA. That is the alphabetization program of the second. And INEA works better with our program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next week, we're delighted to have back Werner Rusika talking to us about thought change. Changing the old recording playing in your head that keeps running over and over again. So you will not want to miss that. Now, you won't believe me, but do not stack the chairs by color and style, but do get rid of your coffee cups. And we hope to see you next week. Thank you, Veronica.